Okay, have a seat, James. What is this?
A vacuum?
A vacuum? How do you know it's a vacuum?
Because it looks like
It looks like one, right? You know, and there is this thing that's called the filter, right? And this is with all the things that, you know, that thing absorbs, you know, go up here, all the dirt. Does it look nice? You want to see? You want me to open the filter? Are you sure? And then you're going to tell me what you find in there, okay? If I don't know, I don't even know how to open this thing. Ugh. What's in there?
dirt.
Dirt? What are those round things there? No, almost. Food, right? You see some hairs there? Those are Coopers. All right. Thank you so much. High five. Go up there. All right, you can go back to your seat. Thank you, James. Let's hear it for James. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is number 3. This is vacuum number 3. For the past 2 years that I have been living here with Father Paul, this is the 3rd vacuum that actually I broke that doesn't work. And I took it to the shop to get it fixed. And then they came back and they said, like, there is the power, something here that needs to be replaced. And just to replace that piece, it will cost as much as the vacuum costs. So we don't know what to do with this vacuum. So when I broke it, I went to Father Paul and I walked with a vacuum in. And then I looked at him. He gives me the look. And I just tell him, Paul, I love you. And he says, oh, shut up. What did you break this time? So when I came back from the shop, again, I come back with the vacuum. And then I go, Paul, I have bad news and good news for you. He says, like, what's the bad news? The bad news is, like, it costs to repair this thing, it costs as much as to get a new one. And then he says, and what's the good news? It's like, I still love you, Paul. And he says, oh, shut up about that. So you might be wondering what a vacuum has to do with the gospel and with you today. Well, let me tell you that it has everything to do with you today, because we are taking up a second collection today for the priest. For the priest vacuum. We have to start a vacuum trust, you know, for all these things. But no, beyond that. Today, we are not talking about this vacuum, but about the most important and the most beautiful and the most perfect vacuum that God has created, and that is the vacuum of you. That is the vacuum of you. And just like as James saw in the filter, these actually get broken because of 3 elements that when I vacuum, they just get something stuck in there. We have parakeet feathers, we have dog hair, and then we have bird food. All of these things get stuck into that. But again, in the beautiful vacuum that God has created, there are things that also gunk and junk that get stuck into our lives. It might be the feathers of trauma, of things that were thrown into us as we were growing up. It can be the dog hairs of the living torments that we live at home or at school or at work. The stress, the pain, the elephants in the room. Or it can be the seeds of pride, the seeds of anger, the seeds of hatred or resentment that just are there, taking up space, and that don't let the vacuum of our life be what it's meant to be. When it comes down to this vacuum, Father Paul and I are thinking about how to pay for it and what to do. And I think we're about to give up on that. But unlike us, unlike Father Paul and I, God will never give up on you, and God will do whatever it takes to fix it, to replace whatever pieces need to be replaced in your life, to throw in a warranty for 10 years or an eternity, or to even restore you to factory settings. And he picks up the tab. And he's paid for it with every drop of the blood of his very son, so that you can be the vacuum you're called to be. There is one thing for sure in life, and in life we're going to find a lot of things that are going to take up space in our lives. But there is one who is willing to fix us, to help us, time and again. Time and again. And that's what we hear in the gospel today. Today in the gospel we find a very interesting event happening. Jesus Christ is going to have dinner with the epitome of sin, a Pharisee. The guy who lived like the double life. They will just thrust all this law on people and they will not follow them. That they were hated by the community. That people will not really respect them. They were the ones who were imposing heavy yokes on people. And still, Jesus goes to eat with him, and he says that sometimes people are going to get blinded and lame and crippled by things that happens to us in life. But to them, to that people, a.k.a. all of us, because we know, and we've been there, we know what it feels like to be blinded or crippled or poor in any way or the other. And he invites the Pharisee to do that, to extend the invitation to the ones who cannot repay him. Who does that? But God. Are we invited to the beautiful wedding banquet? And we will never be able to repay God, that's for sure. But maybe what we can do is that to reflect what we receive through our lives. It's just as simple as that. And it's interesting that I think God doesn't condemn, doesn't judge the Pharisee today. But I think he's giving him a second chance. Saying that, it's never too late to get the vacuum fixed. So sisters and brothers, today, on the last Sunday of August, when you clean your house, and if you use a vacuum, think of you, the most beautiful vacuum that God has done. And even though sometimes it might be broken, it might be filled with junk, God will clean us. God will fix us. And God will not ask anything in return. I hope that at that moment of conversion and encountering with a God who gives us life, makes something explode in your life. And that, I hope it is, a burning desire to emulate what he did and what he said.